Commander Zarex gripped the handrail as the ship slowed near Earth's space station. His scaled skin tightened around his massive frame. The blue-green planet below had caused his people great trouble. 10 years ago, the humans had somehow beaten the mighty Arctarian forces in the border war. No one in the galaxy had expected it. Now Zarex had to visit their military academy as part of new peace talks. He hated this mission. Arctarians never showed weakness, especially to lesser species. Yet here he was, about to tour a human training facility as if they were equals. "Commander, we dock in 5 minutes," said Lieutenant Vex, his personal aide. The younger Arctarian's voice trembled slightly. Even loyal Vex seemed nervous about meeting humans up close. Zarex blinked his 4 eyes in sequence, a habit that revealed his stress. "Tell me the plan again, we cannot make mistakes." Vex nodded. "Admiral Susan Miller will meet us. A top student named Alan Roberts will join her. The humans have agreed to our safety rules." "Good. Remember, we are here to learn their weaknesses, not show respect." Zarex checked his ceremonial armor one last time. The gold plates reflected the ship's lights, each mark and dent telling stories of battles won. The ship connected to the station with barely a bump. Zarex had to admit the humans had gotten better at building things since they first reached space. When the doors opened, Zarex saw 2 humans waiting. A female in a crisp blue uniform with many medals stood tall next to a younger male in a simpler uniform. Neither showed fear. This surprised Zarex. Most beings trembled when meeting an Arctarian commander. His species stood 8 feet tall with armored skin, 4 eyes, and claws that could tear through metal. Yet these humans looked at him with only calm interest. "Commander Zarex," the older human said, making the universal peace sign. "I am Admiral Miller. Welcome to Earth's military academy. You are the first Arctarian official to visit our training center." Zarex returned the gesture stiffly. "The honor is mine, Admiral." He kept his voice flat, hiding his discomfort. "The Confederation has wanted to know how Earth trains its surprisingly effective soldiers." If Miller noticed his mocking tone, she didn't react. "I think you'll find our methods interesting, Commander. Shall we start the tour?" They boarded a shuttle heading to Earth. Zarex noticed the young human, Cadet Roberts, watching him closely. The commander had studied human body language before coming. This human showed no fear, only curiosity. "Do you see something strange, Cadet?" Zarex asked sharply. The young man straightened his back even more. "Sorry, Commander. I've studied Arctarian military history deeply. Your people's achievements are amazing." Zarex felt an odd mix of pride and worry. "And yet your people stopped our expansion at Proxima." "Just lucky timing and conditions, sir," Roberts answered smoothly. As the shuttle entered Earth's atmosphere, Zarex looked down at the planet's surface. Most of it was covered in blue water, a strange sight for an Arctarian from a desert world. Clouds swirled in white patterns across the blue. Somewhere below, humans had created weapons and strategies that had beaten his people's best generals. The shuttle broke through cloud cover, revealing green lands and sprawling cities below. Zarex spotted their destination, a large complex of buildings nestled between tall mountains. "The Rocky Mountains provide natural protection for our main academy," Admiral Miller explained. "We've trained our officers here since before we reached space." Zarex nodded silently. He had come to find out why humans, small, soft creatures with no natural armor or claws, had managed to defeat the greatest military force in the known galaxy. He had expected to find advanced technology or secret weapons, but something in the calm confidence of these 2 humans made his scales tighten with worry. They weren't afraid of him. They weren't impressed by him. They acted like meeting an Arctarian commander was normal. As the shuttle descended toward the academy, Zarex realized the humans were watching him just as carefully as he watched them. He had come to study them, but they were also studying him. "Your first time on Earth, Commander?" Miller asked. "Yes. My people rarely visit water worlds." "Then we're honored to be your first experience," she said with a small smile. "I think you'll find many surprises during your visit." Something in her tone made Zarex's secondary heart beat faster. Was that a threat? A warning? He couldn't tell. The shuttle landed smoothly on a large pad, where more humans waited in perfect lines. Young cadets in matching uniforms stood at attention, faces forward, bodies still. Our senior class honor guard, Miller explained. Our best students. Zarek stepped off the shuttle and felt Earth's gravity pull at him, slightly stronger than his homeworld. The air smelled strange, full of water and plant life. The sun felt warm on his scales, and all around him humans watched with those calculating eyes. Welcome to Earth Military Academy, Commander, Admiral Miller said, where we turn ordinary humans into the soldiers that defended Proxima. Zarek nodded stiffly. He had expected to find weakness. Instead, he felt the first whisper of doubt. His superiors had sent him to learn human secrets, but now he wondered if they had made a mistake. Perhaps some secrets were better left undiscovered. The Earth Military Academy spread out below them as the shuttle landed. Zarek pressed his face to the window, studying the layout. Large stone buildings stood in neat rows. Training fields stretched between them. Mountains rose tall on all sides, like natural walls. Your academy has few defenses, Zarek said, looking for weapon turrets or shield generators. He saw none. Admiral Miller smiled slightly. Our best defense has always been our people, Commander. This answer bothered Zarek. In Arctarian military bases, layers of automated weapons protected every approach. Here, he saw only a few guard posts and simple fences. The shuttle touched down on a large flat pad. Through the windows, Zarek saw two lines of young humans in matching uniforms. They stood perfectly still, backs straight, eyes forward. Our honor guard, Miller explained, as the shuttle door opened. 20 of our best senior cadets. Zarek stepped out into Earth's air. It felt heavy with moisture and smelled of growing things. The gravity pulled at him, making his movements slightly slower than normal. The sun warmed his scales pleasantly. He walked between the lines of cadets, studying each face. None showed fear. None looked away from his four-eyed gaze. None flinched at his clawed hands or armored skin. Near the end of the line, a small female cadet caught his attention. She seemed too tiny to be a warrior, barely reaching his chest. What is your specialty, cadet? He asked her directly. She didn't hesitate. Alien psychology and combat tactics, sir. Cadet Kate Wilson, third in my class. Zarek blinked all four eyes at once, genuinely surprised. You study how non-humans think? Yes, sir. Understanding friends and enemies is key to everything we do here. Zarek turned to Admiral Miller with new interest. Your academy teaches mind reading alongside fighting? Miller smiled. We teach everything that makes a good officer, Commander. How to fight and how to avoid fighting when possible. As they walked toward the main building, Zarek noticed various training activities across the grounds. Some humans practiced hand-to-hand fighting. Others sat with computer tablets running what looked like battle plans. A group ran through an obstacle course carrying heavy packs. What would you like to see first? Miller asked. We can show you. Our physical training, our combat simulators, or our research labs. Zarek considered carefully. His leaders wanted information about human technology, but something about these humans' confidence made him curious about their training. Show me how you train for combat, he decided. The Confederation wants to know how your species, physically weaker than many space-traveling races, produces such effective warriors. Miller nodded calmly. Of course, our combat training center is this way. As they walked, Cadet Roberts moved close to Zarek's side. May I ask a question, Commander? You may. Is it true that Arctarian military academies use real weapons from day one of training? Zarek was surprised by the question. Yes, those who survive become excellent soldiers. Roberts nodded thoughtfully. An effective system for your people. We had to find different methods. Something in the young human's voice made Zarek's skin tighten. Different how? The border war had proven how effective those different methods were. For the first time, Zarek wondered if this visit might reveal uncomfortable truths. They approached a large round building with a domed roof. "The combat pavilion," Miller announced, leading them through tall doors. Inside, circular rows of seats surrounded a large open floor covered in soft mats. The space could hold hundreds of observers, but today it was empty except for 2 humans in the center. "Some of our hand-to-hand combat training," Miller explained as they took seats near the front. "Cadets learned to fight without weapons first." Xerix watched with mild interest. Arctarians spent little time on unarmed combat. Their natural claws and strength made weapons training more important. At some signal Xerix missed, the 2 humans burst into action. What followed shocked him. Their movements flowed like water. The smaller human used the larger one's strength against him. They struck at weak points with precision. Their attacks linked together in combinations Xerix had never seen. "Interesting," he said, trying to sound casual, "but hardly useful against armored enemies with superior strength." Miller's smile widened slightly. "Let's add some complexity." She pressed a button on her wrist device. Immediately, the training floor changed. Light projections created obstacles, walls, barriers, and trenches. 4 more humans entered, carrying training weapons. 2 had staffs, 1 had a blade, and 1 carried what looked like a training version of a standard blaster rifle. Most shocking of all, 2 light projections appeared, perfect copies of Arctarian soldiers in full battle armor. "You have made models of our warriors," Xerix said sharply. "We model many species for training purposes," Miller replied smoothly. The exercise began. Xerix leaned forward, unable to hide his interest. The original 2 unarmed humans moved with incredible coordination. They used the terrain. They used timing. They even used their opponent's attacks against them. Most disturbing was how they handled the Arctarian projections. They targeted joint points where armor connected. They used leverage instead of strength. They seemed to know exactly where Arctarian weak points were. Within minutes, all opponents, real and projected, had been neutralized. Xerix sat back, his secondary heart beating fast. "Your cadets train against accurate models of Confederation forces?" "We train for all possibilities," Miller said simply. Cadet Roberts leaned forward. "Our philosophy focuses on adaptability, Commander. Weapons can be lost. Technology can fail. The body and mind must be ready for anything." Xerix nodded slowly. "Your species makes up for physical weakness through extensive preparation." "We prefer to think of it as using our strengths effectively," Miller corrected gently. "Shall we continue to the research facilities?" As they left the combat pavilion, Xerix found his mind racing. The human fighters had shown perfect knowledge of Arctarian vulnerabilities. If their cadets trained regularly against such accurate models, what else did they know? Had the Confederation underestimated these humans again? The thought made his scales itch with worry. Ahead lay the research facilities where humans developed their military technology. Xerix found himself both eager and afraid to see what waited there. The combat pavilion was a large round building with rows of seats circling a flat center area. Light came from tall windows near the roof. The floor was covered with soft blue mats. Admiral Miller led Xerix and Cadet Roberts to front row seats, overlooking the training area. 2 humans waited in the center, a tall male and a shorter female. Both wore simple gray training clothes. "Cadets Greg Foster and Olivia Martinez," Miller explained. "Third-year students specializing in our advanced combat program." Xerix studied the humans with his 4 eyes. Neither looked impressive. The male was muscular for a human, but still half Xerix's weight. The female appeared particularly weak, small-boned and light. "They have no weapons," Xerix observed. "For this demonstration, correct," Miller said. "We begin with the basics, before adding complexity." A soft tone sounded, and the 2 humans exploded into motion. Xerix jerked back in surprise. Their speed was unexpected. They moved in blurs, striking, blocking, and countering. The female didn't try to match the male's strength. Instead, she used his movements against him. When he attacked, she redirected his force, sending him off balance. When he defended, she found gaps in his guard. Most interesting to Xerix was how they targeted vulnerable points: joints, nerve clusters, balance centers. They didn't waste energy on powerful but ineffective strikes. Impressive for unaugmented beings, Xerix admitted, grudgingly, but hardly effective against armored opponents with superior strength and reflexes. Miller's smile didn't reach her eyes. Let's increase the challenge. She spoke into her wrist device. Computer, activate combat scenario Delta 9. The training. Area transformed. Light projections created a three-dimensional battlefield with walls, ditches, and barriers. 4 more humans entered from side doors, each carrying different weapons: fighting sticks, practice knives, and 2 with training versions of standard pulse rifles. Then something appeared that made Xerix's scales stand on end. 2 perfect, holographic copies of Arctarian soldiers in full battle armor. You've modeled our warriors, he said sharply. We model all known combat species, Miller replied calmly, for educational purposes. What happened next left Xerix speechless. The unarmed humans moved through the battlefield with perfect coordination. They used the environment to create advantages. They timed their movements to supporting fire from allies. They separated opponents and neutralized them one by one. Most disturbing was how effectively they disabled the Arctarian projections. They didn't try to overpower them. Instead, they targeted specific points: the connection seams between armor plates, the cooling vents necessary for Arctarian body temperature regulation, the joint mechanisms that allowed movement. These were vulnerabilities the Confederation military considered classified information. Yet these human cadets exploited them perfectly. In less than 5 minutes, all opponents had been neutralized. Your cadets train against accurate models of Confederation forces? Xerix asked, keeping his voice carefully neutral. We train against all potential scenarios, Miller replied. I assume the Confederation does the same. Not with such detail, Xerix admitted. His military had basic models of human capabilities, but nothing approaching this level of specific knowledge. On the training floor, the cadets reset for another round. Xerix noticed how they communicated with small hand gestures and quick glances. They needed few words to coordinate complex actions. May I ask a question? Xerix said, turning to Cadet Roberts. Of course, sir. How long has your academy trained? Against Arctarian combat models? Roberts hesitated, glancing at Admiral Miller, who nodded slightly. Since before the border war, sir, Roberts answered. Our intelligence section provided initial models based on limited observations. After each encounter, the models improved. I see. Xerix felt his secondary heart beat faster. This explained much about the border war's outcome. While the Confederation had approached the conflict with standard tactics, humans had specifically prepared to counter Arctarian strategies. Miller gestured to the training floor. Would you like to see another scenario, Commander? That won't be necessary. Xerix had seen enough, perhaps too much. How many combat scenarios do you maintain in your database? For Arctarian encounters? 47 major scenarios with hundreds of variations. 47. The Confederation had only 12 standard combat protocols for planetary engagements. These humans had prepared for nearly 4 times that many possibilities. One more question, Admiral. Do all your cadets receive this training? Every cadet learns the basics, she replied. Those with aptitude for specific encounter types receive specialized training. Specialized training. Xerix pictured hundreds of human officers, each expert in countering specific Arctarian tactics. The implications were disturbing. Your approach emphasizes adaptability, Cadet Roberts said, breaking the uncomfortable silence. Weapons can be lost or damaged. Technology can fail. The mind and body must be ready for any situation. Xerix nodded slowly. Your species compensates for physical limitations through extensive preparation. We prefer to think of it as maximizing our strengths, Miller corrected gently. Shall we continue to the research facilities? As they exited the combat pavilion, Xerix found himself reassessing everything he thought he knew about human military capabilities. If their cadets trained regularly against such accurate models of Arctarian combatants, What other secrets had humans uncovered? More importantly, what would happen if the fragile peace between their peoples broke down? The border war had been limited in scope. A full-scale conflict would be very different. For the first time in his distinguished career, Xerxes felt a chill of uncertainty about his people's military superiority. The tour was only half complete, and already he had seen enough to worry the Confederation's highest commanders. The research wing waited ahead. There, humans developed their weapons and technology. Xerxes steeled himself for more surprises. This diplomatic mission was quickly becoming a strategic intelligence operation with troubling implications. The research wing of the academy looked nothing like military facilities Xerxes had seen before. Instead of dark hallways and locked doors, these corridors had large windows and open spaces. Plants grew in corners. Sunlight streamed through skylights. Cadets moved freely between rooms, talking and working together. "Your security seems minimal," Xerxes said as they passed another open lab where humans worked on complex equipment. "We find that too many walls slow down new ideas, Admiral," Miller replied. "Don't worry, Commander. The truly sensitive materials are well protected." They walked for several minutes through the busy hallways. Finally, they reached a massive round door with Strategic Simulation Center written above it. Here, at last, Xerxes saw real security, armed guards, eye scanners, and what looked like mind pattern readers. "This facility houses our most advanced training tool," Miller explained as they went through security checks. "We call it the Crucible." The doors opened to reveal an enormous room. In the center stood a raised platform surrounded by rings of computer stations. Humans in both cadet and instructor uniforms worked at screens and control panels throughout the space. On the central platform stood a lone human wearing a lightweight suit covered with tiny lights and sensors. Above the human, floating in the air, was a complete three-dimensional battlefield showing terrain, buildings, and moving military units. Cadet Richard Winters, Miller identified the human on the platform. "One of our best strategic minds." Xerxes watched, fascinated as the cadet moved his hands through the floating images. With small gestures and quiet commands, the human controlled entire battle groups. The battlefield, which Xerxes realized with shock, was an exact copy of an Arcturian colony world, shifted as forces moved and fought. "This simulation," Xerxes said carefully, "looks exactly like Helios 4, a Confederation military base." "The simulation uses public space data," Miller replied smoothly. "Any similarity to real places is coincidence." They both knew this was a polite lie. The simulation was too accurate to be based on public information. Somehow humans had detailed knowledge of one of the Confederation's most important military installations. "What is this cadet practicing?" Xerxes asked, trying to sound merely curious. Miller gestured to a nearby instructor who approached with a data pad. "Lieutenant Sam Porter can explain the exercise." The lieutenant nodded respectfully. "This is a resource limitation scenario. Commander, Cadet Winters must achieve his goals with deliberately insufficient forces against a technologically superior enemy." "And how often do your cadets succeed in such scenarios?" Xerxes asked. "Our records show a 68% success rate across all senior cadets," Porter answered immediately. "Cadet Winters personally has an 82% success rate." Xerxes' secondary heart beat faster. Those numbers were impossibly high against the kind of defenses shown in the simulation. Either the simulations were wrong, or, "Would you like to try the Crucible yourself, Commander?" Miller offered unexpectedly. "We've prepared a special scenario for you." Protocol said he should refuse. Intelligence gathering said he should accept. "I would be honored, Admiral." As Cadet Winters left the platform, Xerxes took his place. The neural interfaces adjusted automatically to his alien body, another disturbing sign of how well humans had studied his species. "The scenario is simple," Miller explained. "You command defense forces for a critical installation. Enemy forces are approaching with unknown capabilities and numbers. Your goal is to hold the installation for 6 standard hours." The simulation activated, and Zarex found himself commanding a perfect copy of an Arctarian defense battalion with standard equipment. The environment changed to rocky mountains with both good defensive positions and dangerous approach routes. Drawing. On years of military experience, Zarex positioned his forces in perfect defensive formations. He set up overlapping firing zones, placed scouts to watch all approaches, and kept strong reserves ready to respond to any attack. Everything went according to standard Confederation tactics until the first contact. The attacking force, human, as expected, did nothing by the book. They came from impossible angles, used terrain features Zarex had thought impassable, and employed tactics that seemed suicidal until they somehow worked. When Zarex adapted, they adapted faster. When he concentrated forces, they spread out and attacked elsewhere. When he spread out to counter, they massed and overwhelmed key points. After just 17 minutes of simulated time, his command center fell, and the exercise ended. The simulation disappeared, leaving Zarex standing alone on the platform, breathing hard. "An interesting approach, Commander," Miller said as he rejoined them. "Would you like to try again with different settings?" "That won't be necessary," Zarex replied stiffly. "Your simulation is educational." As they left the crucible, Cadet Roberts walked beside him. "The first time is always hard, sir. The simulation learns and counters standard tactics." "You've studied Arctarian military doctrine extensively," Zarex said. It wasn't a question. Roberts hesitated before answering. "We study all available tactical approaches, sir. Knowledge is our greatest weapon." For the first time in his career, Zarex felt something close to fear. Not of these humans personally, but of what their careful, detailed preparation meant. The Confederation had seriously underestimated humanity's capabilities. Again. In the border war, humans had surprised the Confederation with unexpected tactics and stubborn resistance, but Zarex had believed that was lucky timing and special circumstances. Now he understood differently. The humans weren't just lucky, they weren't just stubborn. They had systematically studied every aspect of Arctarian warfare. They had built training programs specifically to counter Arctarian advantages. They had created simulations that perfectly mirrored Confederation bases and tactics, and worst of all, their approach was working. Their cadets regularly defeated simulated Arctarian forces under realistic conditions. As they headed toward the final stop on their tour, the Academy's History Center, Zarex wondered what else he would discover about these disturbing humans and their surprising military knowledge. The final stop on their tour was deceptively mundane, the Academy's historical archive. After the revelations of the combat pavilion and simulation chamber, Zarex had expected something more dramatic. Many visitors find our preservation of history curious, Admiral Miller commented as they entered the quiet museum-like space. But understanding our past informs our future. The archive chronicled humanity's military history from ancient conflicts through their expansion into space. Artifacts, documents, and interactive displays trace the evolution of human warfare through the centuries. "Your species has spent much of its history fighting itself," Zarex observed, pausing before a display of primitive projectile weapons. "Yes," Miller acknowledged. "It's not a history we're proud of, but one we've learned from." They proceeded to more recent exhibits, including one dedicated to the brief border conflict that had established the uneasy peace between humanity and the Confederation. "Interesting," Zarex murmured, examining the display. "Your historical account differs from ours in several respects." "History is often perspective-dependent," Miller replied diplomatically. "We've included Confederation accounts where available." They neared the end of the exhibit. They came to a wall bearing thousands of names engraved in simple, elegant script. "The fallen," Miller explained softly. "Every cadet and graduate who died in service." Zarex studied the wall, noting the dates. "These go back centuries." "We remember all of them," Cadet Roberts said. "Each name represents not just a life lost, but knowledge and experience that couldn't be passed to the next generation." Something in the cadet's tone made Zarex turn to study him more carefully. "You speak as though from personal experience, Cadet." Roberts met his gaze steadily. My grandfather's name is on that wall, sir, as is my mother's. For the first time, Zarex recognized something familiar in these humans, not their biology or their technology, but their commitment to continuity. The Arctarians shared this value, though expressed differently. In the Confederation, Zarex found himself explaining, "We maintain memory crystals containing the final tactical insights of our fallen commanders. Their knowledge continues to serve even after death." Miller nodded respectfully. Different methods, similar purpose. As they completed the tour and prepared for Zarex's departure, he found himself troubled by everything he had witnessed. The humans weren't merely preparing for the possibility of conflict. They were systematically dismantling every advantage the Confederation had long taken for granted. At the shuttle pad, Admiral Miller offered the formal farewell gesture. "We hope this visit has been informative, Commander. The Academy stands ready to participate in the upcoming joint exercises." "Most informative, Admiral," Zarex replied, returning the gesture. "I will convey my observations to Confederation leadership." As he boarded the shuttle, Cadet Robert stepped forward unexpectedly. "Commander," a token of respect from the Cadet Corps. He extended a small metal emblem, the Earth Military Academy insignia. Zarex accepted it with appropriate ceremony. "My thanks, Cadet Roberts." The shuttle doors closed, and as they lifted off, Zarex studied the emblem. Etched on its reverse was the Academy's motto, "Prepare for peace by understanding war." Now, finally, he understood the full implications of that philosophy. The humans weren't exceptional warriors because of superior strength or technology. Their advantage lay in their methodical, comprehensive study of conflict itself, including detailed analysis of Arctarian capabilities that his own leadership had clearly underestimated. Back aboard his ship, Zarex dismissed his aide and composed his report to Confederation leadership. After several attempts at diplomatic phrasing, he finally wrote with blunt clarity, "Recommendation: indefinitely postpone planned military exercises with Earth forces. Reevaluate all strategic assessments of human capabilities. Their academy is not merely a training facility, it is a systematic program for identifying and neutralizing Confederation advantages. Should conflict resume, previous outcome projections are no longer valid." He paused, then added a personal observation. "In my assessment, we have made a critical error in our understanding of humans. They do not train warriors to fight wars. They train scholars to master warfare as a discipline. The distinction is subtle, but the implications are profound. We face not merely soldiers, but students of war itself." As his ship broke orbit and set course for Arctarian space, "Commander," Zarex gazed at the blue planet receding behind them. For the first time in his career, he found himself hoping that diplomacy would succeed where military advantage no longer could. Because if it didn't, he wasn't certain who would ultimately survive the encounter. End.